What is an implied contract in contract law? In today's fast-paced business world, understanding the nuances of contract law is more important than ever. Just yesterday, discussions around implied contracts have gained traction among business owners and employees alike. Many are curious about how these agreements work, especially when they are not formally documented. An implied contract is a type of agreement that is not written or spoken but is understood to exist based on the actions, behavior, or circumstances of the parties involved. Unlike express contracts, which are clearly stated, implied contracts are formed through conduct. For instance, in employment law, even without a written contract, an employee handbook or company policies can create an implied contract. If the handbook states that employees will only be fired for specific reasons, a court might interpret this as creating an implied promise. This can override the usual employment rule that allows for termination at will. In everyday business transactions, implied contracts are quite common. When you order a meal at a restaurant, there is an implied agreement that you will pay for your food, even though no formal contract is signed. The same principle applies to many service-based transactions, where both parties act in a way that indicates they agree to certain terms. To be valid, an implied contract must meet the basic requirements of contract law. There must be an offer, acceptance, and something of value exchanged, known as consideration. Additionally, the contract cannot violate any laws or public policy. Courts evaluate the facts of each case to determine if an implied contract exists. They consider how the parties acted, what was communicated, and the overall situation. If the evidence shows both sides intended to be bound by certain terms, even without explicit statements, an implied contract may be enforced. In the realm of business, it is generally advisable to have clear, written contracts to avoid misunderstandings. However, when actions speak louder than words, implied contracts can still hold legal weight. Understanding this concept is essential for business owners and employees to know their rights and responsibilities, even when nothing is documented.